Welcome to another edition of Politics and I'm Egberto Willis, your host. Today I'm honored to be with Stephanie Thomas. Stephanie Thomas is the Secretary of State of Connecticut. Stephanie, welcome to Politics and Right.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Stephanie, the first question that I'm going to ask is this question I shouldn't, because we shouldn't be going there. But it was shocking to me when I saw you and you were presented as the Secretary of State of Connecticut, a state that I don't think I would have expected a black woman to be Secretary of State of. I mean, I'm sorry, like I said, it's a wrong question, but, I'm honest on this show.
It's understandable. When I moved to Connecticut 10 years ago, I would have never thought that a black person, at least let alone me, would be Secretary of the State. But here I am.
Now, tell me, first of all, what kind of campaign did you run? I mean, it is something that I think, first of all, it speaks well of Connecticut. That's the first thing. But secondly, it is something that I think you can impart on others as how can you campaign in a state that doesn't necessarily look like you, but looks at you and say you are the best qualified for the job.
I think it's really important. I always used to say on the campaign trail that voters are smarter than we think.
Right.
And what I found is that all voters, regardless of race, ethnicity, socioeconomic level, know how to spot the truth and know how to spot BS.
Right.
And I'm a truth teller, and I'm also about empowering people, voters, to use their power. So I share with them information about how to make their voice heard. In the secretary's race, there were 7 other Democrats running, also very diverse. 2 Latinas, a black man, 2 Caucasian men, and someone else. Oh, and another black man. So it was a diverse pool. So I think that helped shift the conversation further. As I mentioned to you, I'm the first black secretary that Connecticut has ever had. And we have a long history of allowing the black person to be our state treasurer.
Right.
It was a very progressive reform in the 60s that, hey, let's get someone of color in the executive branch.
Right.
So there's always been a black person in the treasurer's role, but never anywhere else. And I'm not about quotas. I think I just went out there, told the truth, and proved that I was the best candidate.
And it shows. Now, what does the Secretary of State in your state in Connecticut do?
Oh, so in Connecticut, we do many things, but the 2 biggest things, we're in charge of business services. So anytime someone wants to start a business or nonprofit, they go through our office. But the reason secretaries of state are sort of on the radar nowadays, we also oversee the administration of elections.
Right.
So I don't need to tell you how important it is to make sure that people have access to the ballot, that elections are safe and secure, and that we are always just thinking about what's coming next versus what has been.
Right. So you are in charge of elections in Connecticut.
Yes.
So if anything goes wrong in Connecticut, we got to look at you now.
Well, I'm going to say no, because so every state is different and people don't realize that. In Connecticut, we are not organized by county.
Oh,
so
really?
Every single town administers their own election. So we have 169 towns.
Okay.
And they are elected. The people who administer are elected in their town and funded by their town.
Right.
But we have to make sure they're properly trained. We have to make sure they're following all the laws. And we have to make sure, as much as we can, that we are backstopping so that nothing bad happens.
So in Connecticut, does everybody live in a town? Or because, like in Texas, there are rural areas and that sort of stuff that are not incorporated. Is that different in...
Nope, it's the same. So we have a rural area, a coastal area. We have big cities. I believe our smallest town has about 800 people and our largest about 140,000 and everything in between.
So then is everybody associated with a town, even if they're not within, let's say, the town limits or city limits or whatever, they are associated.
They are associated with the town. Yes, exactly.
With the town. Well, I'd like you to tell the folks out there, and specifically progressives, if they want to launch a campaign that many would think would be fairly hard to win, how would you suggest that they start their campaign? How did you start your campaign? Because, like I said, I think it is impressive that, again, and you said the field was 7 strong, and I mentioned you had a runoff thereafter, and you had to win in a runoff as well.
Yep.
And you did
I won a convention, a primary, and a general. So 3 elections all rolled up in one.
Right.
But my political career, the advice I would give is to simply believe in yourself. And sometimes you have to run and lose, and that's okay.
Had you ever lost?
I ran for the state house. I was never involved in politics. I started paying attention, and I didn't like what my state representative was saying and how she was voting. So I decided to just throw caution to the wind. I knew nothing.
Right.
I had to petition onto the ballot.
Right.
I had no campaign manager. I mean, a friend of mine who lives in Brooklyn and I live in Connecticut, and Brooklyn, New York, started helping me out. I had very little. I had nothing going for me.
And you, wait. You just got involved because you got pissed off.
I got pissed off, yes.
Okay.
So, and I thought, I can do this. And no one had run against this woman for 3 election cycles.
Oh, really?
And I said, that's not even a democracy. Voters need choice.
Right.
So I actually didn't think I could win, but I thought it's important to do it. So I ran, and guess what? I lost.
Right, but you got to taste
but only
of it.
by a few hundred votes.
Oh, wow.
And
So then you started to
told
say
me-
you could win.
But I'm going to tell you another story if we have time.
Yes, we do.
I decided we got a huge Democratic majority that year in our state house, state senate, and our governor.
Right.
So I'm like, Democratic trifecta. I don't need to run again.
Right.
It's not based on my ego. But there was one law that I was really passionate about, and that's early voting.
Right.
Connecticut is one of only 4 states in the country that has no early voting.
Yeah.
And with a Democratic trifecta, it still didn't pass. So I said...
Wait. Did they have a bill to pass?
There was a bill, yes. And it just didn't get all the support I thought it could. So I said, you know what? I need to get there and see what's happening.
Yeah.
So I ran again. And I won.
Right.
And
in Congress.
No, this is our state house.
Okay, in the state house.
State house. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Right.
So I won, and I asked to be on the elections committee, and I was appointed vice chair. So I was able to really get in there and do everything.
Really happening.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So long story short, Connecticut has early voting now, and we will be rolling it out next year.
Are you saying that you went on there, became the vice chair, and you pulled those guys' legs and said, we are going to do this?
Not me alone. Advocates have been working on this forever. But I think just making sure it's top of mind, because people get distracted with so many other issues.
Right.
And I'm like, without all these voting reforms, every other issue withers on the vine and dies.
I want to stop you a second for the audience. I want you to really listen to what Secretary of State, I noticed I read again because I mixed some of these positions up, Thomas has to say. She was a person existing in her state. She saw something that was wrong, and she engaged, and she put herself on the line. She lost her first election. It did not deter her. She ran for the second one, won, but she didn't only win, but she went with a coalition and got the change that pissed her off in the first place and got it changed. That's what I call democracy, and that's what I call an activist getting what needs to be done.
And we can all do it. We all have to try at least.
We all have to try it. So we're moving on. You got that passed.
Yeah. So our Secretary of State decided she wasn't going to run for re-election, a Democrat. And I thought, wow, that job sounds great because it focuses on 2 things I love. I'm a business owner.
Right.
I had always worked in the nonprofit sector my entire career, started my own fundraising consulting firm for nonprofits. So I love businesses. So the Secretary's office handles business.
Right.
And I love democracy and making sure people, I think... we live in a representative democracy, and I think we are living in the American myth that what that means is you vote and then poof, like magic, everything works out.
Right.
And we all know, activists know, that's not
like
how
that.
things happen. So I'm trying to affect a culture shift in what a representative democracy means. Yes, we elect people to represent us, But then we have to back up that vote. We have to stay involved the other 364 days
Yes.
a year, by the way, to make sure. When I was in the state house, a bill would come up and I would say, oh, I wonder how my constituents feel. I might hear from 3 people.
Right.
We got to start voicing not only big picture, like I believe in clean air.
Right,
we
right,
all do.
right.
But what's the bill number?
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
is there a
exactly.
bill up?
That's actually going to affect that change.
Yes. And
Yeah.
how do we get that bill passed?
Right.
Or how do we get that bill tweaked?
Right.
Language changed, and you only do that with advocacy. You got to go testify. You have to send in your emails. You got to
Right.
make those phone calls. You got to have meetings with your legislators. And I was just, even early voting, something I was so passionate about. We have to change our constitution. So it went to a ballot measure. 60% of voters voted yes, they wanted early voting.
Right.
But then the bill came up for what should it look like? Should it be 1 day? Should it be 30
That's
days?
why early voting could be 1 day, right?
And it could be 1 day.
Yeah.
It could be 2 hours,
Exactly,
right? There were
right.
some people
Yeah.
who were like, well, let's just do it for half a day. And some people said 45 days.
Mm-hmm.
So we all went out. We sent emails like, please come testify.
Right.
Do you know how many people showed up to testify?
I'm scared to ask.
About 65 people.
You know, that's not too bad, eh?
That is bad if you want change.
Well, yeah. In other words, if it were something that wanted massive output, you would think that they would have been crowded in the room.
We just got, people just got lucky that the Secretary of State
Right.
and the committee the committee chairs
Right.
were leaning toward like 2 weeks.
Right.
But what if they were leaning toward 1 day and no one
then
showed
you'd have-
up?
Right. Right. One
So
day.
people
You know,
always wonder like why the bill didn't get shaped a certain way.
yeah.
Often it's because not enough
You know,
people showed
it's
up.
sad that when you said 65,
You thought it was good.
I thought it was good, right?
60% of voters said they want it. So
Right.
in real numbers, that's probably in that election, probably 500,000 people.
Right.
And of 500,000, 65
Only 65. Yeah,
showed
it's
up.
not good. It's not good. You're right. That's not good.
That's not good at
But
all.
yeah, so after you got all your work done and you proved yourself
Mm-hmm.
in the legislature, you then decided, I'm moving to higher office because now that I've got this law on voting passed, I want to administer the damn thing.
Yes.
And how did that happen?
You know, it was audacious, I won't lie.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because at that point, I had only served 1 year in the
Right.
House when I decided to run. And as I said, there were 7 other Democrats.
Right.
And some people, you know, always say, like, wait your turn,
Right.
or you haven't been here that long.
Right.
Most people had no idea who I was.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
Because I hadn't been involved in politics.
Yeah.
But my mother didn't raise someone afraid.
She raised somebody that's going to challenge the system.
And I just thought I would regret it if I didn't try.
Yeah.
Because I really thought I had
That you could do
something
it. Yeah.
different to say than the other people running.
Mm-hmm.
And it was not based on ego. We passed a lot of election law over the last 2 years, and I felt like this was a time for a secretary who's really focused on implementation.
Right.
And I felt I have a management degree, I own my own business, and it just felt like I would be a good tactician for
Right.
this time
Right.
Versus more policy.
Right.
So I did it,
You did it.
and I won.
You won. I know, no, but you won 3 times.
Yes.
The convention,
Yeah.
the
A primary.
primary, and the main thing.
Yes.
Okay, what would you have liked me to ask you that I didn't? That's
Oh my
always
gosh.
my last question, and it always stumps you.
Oh, you know what I would like to talk about? Part of the reason I ran is civic literacy
Okay.
is what we're missing
my
in
God,
this country.
yes, yes,
Because
yes.
no entity has ever been responsible for
Yes.
it. So if the State Department of Education doesn't think it should be
Right.
taught or doesn't have the resources, it's left to chance.
Yes.
And I believe we will never fully realize this representative democracy. We will never have policies that match the will of the people.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about how many popular things the people believe in
Right.
that never get enacted, part of that is because we all are suffering from a lack of civic literacy.
That is so true.
But the good thing is we can all learn it.
Yes.
And I say it's like anything else. If you play a sport one day a year, you're crap at it.
Yeah.
But if you practice every day, every
week, you
week,
look like you're great at it.
And we live in a time with the internet. And almost every public meeting in every state is online. You can watch it or you can go to it. And that gives you an opportunity to understand the language, to understand the details, to understand who supports and who's a foe. And we have to learn how to intervene in all branches of government at the local level, state level, federal level to make our voice heard. So,
Secretary of State of Connecticut, Stephanie Thomas, thank you so
you're
kindly
so welcome.
for
It's
having
a pleasure.
been on Politics Done Right.
Thank you.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number 1, subscribe to our channel, and number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share.